Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
It's time for change to move into the real work of the universe. And it's time to understand that we use the matter state to reach the level of understanding of the soul of the man. Now you understand maybe why the Creator has sent His messengers in the name of whatever you have had. Is that they bring the ears, that it can be used when the time of the Messiah comes. They can teach the soul and the message, not to oppose, but by them understanding through those who have become messiahs to give from their souls to these to elevate, the job is made easy. The school is there and the students are devotedly there. Then there won't be any fight between what they call the Muslims and the Christians. The lamb and the lion will eat and sleep in the same nest. The Christians and the Muslims will sleep and pray in the mosque and in the same church in the name of their souls, not in the name of religion that is used to create so much conflict for the benefit of those who were the hyperactive children. The time has come, the time of change is here. And as I said, my wish is my command. If it's your wish to see peace, the path of peace is laid very clearly. It's the soul of the collective awareness by giving will create that position of change. No other thing. There is no pen in the soul of the man. And I'm sure once you go into the universal community, you will never see anything written but the balance of the fields of the soul of the existence. Try to be humble enough not to become arrogant in the power that you have understood and you possess. Otherwise, you'll fall in the same path of the church and the mosque. This is what we promised, and this is what we have delivered. We have to understand the operation of the soul, and we have to understand the soul of the man is a star in the cosmos of the universe. If we compare the soul of the man and many of us, 7 billion in one collection, Earth is like a galaxy with so many stars. When we look in the depth of the universe, we see galaxies with hundreds of millions of stars in it. So is the planet Earth. It carries 7 billion beautiful stars, which are the soul of the man. Carries with it soul of so many trillions of animals, plants, and everything else. So if you look, when someone who does not see the physicality of the earth and its content, what do they see? They see a galaxy with so many beautiful lights shining, each one according to their strength, each one according to their position. An infant has a beautiful soul, so has the old man. To those who do not see the physical dimension of this planet, but they see the strength of the field, we are clusters of stars. The human race, every single soul, no one from a distance sees that's the soul of a fisherman, that's the soul of the cosmologist, that's the soul of the president. They all shine irrespective of the physicality. This is the magic. This is what the new science has to bring to man. When we look to our soul, we see nothing but a star in the other souls. And this is the break. This is the understanding. This is what all these teachings are about. Coming to mature to the next level, to understand in the deep space, the universe is the oyster for those souls who serve. Then man is ready to go into space. Then man is ready to become part of the universal community which has been promised. I never promised you heaven. I always promised you the elevation of the man to join the family. And now you have the key. It's you who has to open the door to understand, if I can raise the soul of these people or millions of other souls, that the physical life on this planet changes, then I'm worthy to be part of the universal community. To be there to serve, to expand. To be there, to be part, that in the cycle of life of universe, I become, in being part, I become part of the totality. When man reaches that point, a new dimension in the strength of the soul of the man will appear, which is beyond imagination of understanding of the physical life. It's the gate to the opening of the new life in a new dimension, which is beyond imagination of what you might call a new beginning, a new cycle. Which that cycle carries with itself the origin of the creation of life in the universe. It's the elevation of the soul to serve become the key, not a throne of the physical life. The time is right. The time has come for the man to go through this process.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 483rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 27th, 2023. This is the broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the public teachings in English. My name's Rick Crammond, and I'll be host once again in these weekly series of workshops presented by the Keshe Foundation and presented personally by Mr. Keshe each week for the last close to 10 years or so here. And I believe he's ready to begin today's teaching and information. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Are you ready to begin?
Yes. Good morning, good day to you, as usual. Wherever and whenever you listen to this series of knowledge seekers of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, we welcome you back with great pleasure, and maybe one of the greatest pleasures mankind has ever known. As we listen to the intro recorded some 3, 4, or 5 years ago, we see how the evolution in science has brought us to what we see today. What this intro explained or brought forward is now a reality with the technology and the systems which we have developed, where we work through the soul of the man, where we directly get ourselves involved in elevating the soul of the man to the point of passing the boundary, the physical structure of the man. Where many of you, hundreds of you, now we run into thousands, have been through this, have traveled, have seen your loved ones, you have gone to places you never could imagine you go, and with a dimension that you understand and you control. So what was a myth for thousands of years, in past 5 years have become reality to many of you. And the good news is that in the next 5 years, we'll take a new direction, elevation, and dimension in all aspects of technology. In the coming weeks and months, Keshe technology and the development of the space technology will take a leaping jump. In the coming weeks, we will explain more and more as we consolidate, as we change, as we grow, and become one of the major corporations and major organizations in partnership with other structures. Keshe Foundation is just about to break through in the dimension of the space technology, in dimensions of the structure of the technology worldwide. And this has come through the hard work of many of you as knowledge seekers. It allows us to deliver the development of the soul of the man for more people to understand, for more people to benefit by the structure of the technology, which has come through the introduction, understanding of the collective field effects of any entity, be it the soul of the man, be it an atom, be it the electron, be it soul of a tree, be it soul of an animal. Now the knowledge has reached to the point that it's time to leap forward. The frog leap will be so huge in the coming months and years that many of you will say, I was there when you started. I'm one of the original knowledge seekers. I'm one of those who understood in 2000 or whatever it came across. Many of you heard about the Keshe Foundation since 2010, 2005. The teaching and explanation of the science to many scientists goes back to 1980s, early 80s discussions with NASA, all recorded in letters and correspondences that such a technology, such a evolution in science will come. We've seen Musk burning one of the biggest rockets last week, and are happy that they just could take off. In the next few weeks, the space technology of the America will become obsolete. But the technology which the Keshe Foundation in collaboration with major governments will make Americans' space technology to a halt. All we've seen as NASA, all we've seen as a space technology and all the wonders of burning rocket fuel, it'll come to an end. The evolution of the science and technology is at the reach of the man. Not only at the reach, it has been developed to be delivered. In the coming weeks, as we unravel the new collaboration and cooperations with many governments, with many structures, you will understand what you as knowledge seekers been waiting for has been accomplished. We stay quiet, we just tell you what is to come, and it's the job of the governments to announce the collaborations. It's the job of their structure to deliver the technology to the population. We are ready and we have delivered. And in coming days, we are ready to take that leap of development and delivery of technology to millions of people. It comes out of the hard work. It comes in understanding the evolution and the evolution of the world leaders. When we ask you to raise the level of the soul of the world leaders at the reason, we have reached that point. Many of you took part. Many of you with sincerity raised that point. And today we have reached that point. In a coming time, in the next few weeks and months, you'll become aware of the change in technology and evolution in technology and collaboration with structures will bring that change forward. Keshe Foundation, as you as knowledge seekers, will become one of the prominent structures in science and technology. When we will not hear anymore about Americans are about to launch a shuttle, launch a rocket and birds, and we are happy we passed the first 30 seconds, the first minute of flight without exploding, as we heard with Musk's flight a couple of weeks ago, or past few days, that we are just happy. The age of the rocket technology and propulsion is finished. It literally has come to a halt. We will deliver technologies which replace through the structure of the space technology for man. Man now has two options. You can travel as you've seen through the physical dimensions of the space technology like UFOs. Or you can travel in the dimension of the soul as energy. As I explained many times, if I make an envelope of the plasma, doesn't matter if I put a pen in it, the soul of the man in it, or a chair or a dog. That envelopes, when it delivers and opens up, then whatever is in it will manifest itself according to the time, place, and position of the fields of the environment. If it's on Earth, you go in as a dog, you come out as a dog. You go in as a tree, you come out of as a tree. You go in as a man, you come out of the man, out of the tree, envelope, a plasmatic energy. This technology is unknown to outside. It's a dream. If you listen to the transportation and what the scientists up to now have done, they've been trying to move an electron, energy of it, part of it less, up quark, down quarks, and all that mess we have created in the dimension of the physics. Now, doesn't matter you're an up quark or down quarks, whatever you are, a dog, a cat, a man, once we create that envelope, when we deliver that envelope in the atmospheric condition of the Earth on a land-to-land position, you come out as you are. But when we deliver that envelope from Earth to Moon, you mutate an expansion of opening of the envelope to the dimension and the condition of the environment you're in. We will not see man wearing a spacesuit on the Moon. As man will evolve to the dimension and structure can live in the Moon, on the Moon, inside the Moon, in the upper or lower atmosphere of any planet, any space and time. Maybe you can understand the teaching of the past. When we said the time of death, the separation of the soul of the man from his physicality
the space and the time and the position of the soul in the dimension of the creation has been decided by the strength of the soul itself. Now, if your soul happened to manifest in a water of a distant planet, would you drown and die? Or would you manifest as a new creature which can live in that environment, taking the dimension of soul of physicality? Evolution in change, it comes from transmutation in energy fields. In next 2 quarters of this year, we go ahead with the journey, transportation, and transmutation of first 2 men on the moon. How would we see them? And then in the following months and years, we plan to open colonies in cooperation with the governments. Keshe Foundation is not alone anymore. Keshe Foundation will establish, with collaboration, one of the largest governments in the world to establish the first colonies on the moon and Mars. How would we turn up if you come outside the dome which we have created? If by accident you land on the surface of the moon when the dome is not there, how would you look? What about if we transmute you in the combination, in the dimension of the gravitational field forces of the Earth into a dome condition on the moon? You manifest as a man. The way you left on Earth. But have you gone on the moon just to walk on the dust and the dirt? Or are you going there for a real experience of living in the atmospheric condition of the moon? Are we changing a free prison of the Earth to what we call prison of a dome on the moon? This is not the space travel. This is not the way man should be. There is not the way just going from one cage to another. Man should be free. When you go on the moon, you're happy to be in the dimension of physicality of the man to land. You want to go beyond the dome. Or you still want to be in the dimension of the frog suit of the American space technology? Or do you want to be in a real condition of tasting, feeling the pressures, the atmospheric condition of the moon or any other planet? Are you only prisoner tourists or are you a space tourist? If you are a space tourist, we have a beautiful saying Farsi. If you don't want to be embarrassed, become part of the culture, become part of the society. If you don't want to stand out as an idiot, as a leftover, as an uneducated, as whatever you want to call it, when you go to the moon, you want to mix with the creatures of the universe on the other side of the dome. Now you understand you have a choice. Even still, we take you from Earth to the moon in a UFO, in a rocket which has no, what we call a firework on the end of it, and we deliver you. Are you just happy to say you've been on the moon? I've been to such a country just in the airport, in the transit. I've seen all the countries in the world in the airport in transit. You see the country when you get out of the airport, when you go and mix with the society, and then you become a member, then you can say, I've been to this country, I've seen this statue, I've been to that museum, I've eaten their food. So man to go to space has to become to that point. It's better to handle this now than in 20 years, 50 years, and then trying to find a solution, where from the beginning we have the solution. Then you come to understand, when we go to the moon, do you still want to end up in the dome like a fish tank? Or would you like to be outside where the other souls of the creatures of God live? With the present knowledge, the name is irrelevant because we can create the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth on any point, anywhere in the universe, even in the open spaces of the universe. Would you like to be in a fish tank? Or would you like to be part of the society of the universal community and be part of the community? Now you have a choice. Now you understand how the options of the travel into space has narrowed down to no option except travel by the dimension of the energy field of the body of the man. We call it the soul of the man. We have no choice unless we want to fool ourselves. Yes, we've seen, we've been, but actually, yes, as prisoners in a fish tank. I wonder how many of you will travel to the moon and bring souvenirs made by Chinese, sold to you on the moon. I've been to the moon and bring it back to the earth and bring it back to China. Then you understand, to be the true members of the universal community, which we have set up the knowledge for it. We have set up the structure for it that every knowledge seeker can understand, is not exclusivity of governments, organizations, or whatever. Is a collective knowledge of the creation that we all possess and we all have to do. As I said, the knowledge has to be taught in public dimensions, in public teachings, in internet and everything else that will bring the whole culture of a nation of the man to one level. And we have to deliver, that we don't stay just the talkers. And the Keshe Foundation has reached a point to deliver. We deliver technologies to the governments. We show the power of the technology in the essence of solving the present problem of this planet, eradicating poverty, bringing food and the knowledge and energy as food available to every man and every corner of this planet. We have worked for years for this target, and today we are about to bring it to an end. We can feed all men equal, where there is no more hunger, where there is no more lack of water, when there is no more lack of energy, when there is no more lack of what we call food that man can survive. We are on the verge of the opening the doors of the knowledge to all humanity. And thanks to many of you. This is not an easy task. It will take us years to accomplish. It takes us years to set up systems to change the course. And as one of the men of the table said, we write the books and let them read. We rewrite the book of the knowledge of the man in the dimension of plasma, technology, and knowledge, and let the others read. When in the next few weeks, many of you witness the collapse of the NASA technology, the rocket propulsion, and what I call the Chinese firework. Not by talk, but by delivering technologies which shows everything is obsolete. Obsolete, but progressive development of the knowledge, not obsolete just because it becomes. Donkeys and chariots were the best things in the time of Romans. And today we keep them in museums. And now the rocket technology and the space technology, which we've been brought in by the German-based knowledge of the rocket and the Chinese firework, has come to be part of that chariot. It's set to be, and it'll be part of the Museum of Development of the Knowledge of the Man. In the next few weeks, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, Keshe Foundation will release new dimensions in development of the technology and collaborations. And we have the time and the place and the knowledge to attract enough to bring the changes. We work for years. to bring that support, that stability in the technology and the knowledge, and we are just about to break through. To show what was even 5 years ago, as we saw in the beginning, now a reality that will become part of the work of the Keshe Foundation. As I said last week, the Keshe Foundation Exhibition Center in Linz in the next couple of weeks will shut down. Keshe Foundation in totality will move out of Oslo for development of the technology with partnership and collaboration with major governments and corporations, where the knowledge of the Keshe technology becomes part of daily life of every man and plant and animal who lives on this planet and beyond. Thanks to work of many knowledge seekers, it's taken a long time. We had to prove step by step, and we have reached a point that now we should be able to deliver technologies which is developed by you and knowledge of the Keshe Foundation as knowledge seekers. In the next 24 hours, we run a test for addiction, and more than hundreds of you have joined this structure. We want to see what you feel in next 2 or 3 weeks. Has there been change in your addiction? Have you changed, or have you felt even in addiction you were not aware of has been changed? The session which goes on tomorrow at 12 o'clock Central European Time for addiction will bring us a new knowledge. As I explained in the past, you look at it for addiction. We look at it for the progressive development of our technology and structure in the upcoming developments. If you are addicted to kill, to eat, when we put you in the space, the one soul you see on the other side of the dome is not food, and does not look at you as food. We don't create new systems of what we call gun policy to be ready to kill and kill more, that we bring peace. We teach you you're equal, and the others on the other side of the dome in the space are peaceful. They don't have mouth, they don't have a stomach to eat. It's not that they don't have the stomach, they don't have a physical stomach that they need you to be digested. Now we understand, with an understanding of the new technology. Now we understand with the development of new technologies, we have no choice but become men of peace. As peace is time and the place where man has no needs and no worries for the needs that he might have. Many of you have been wondering when this technology is going to be, what it says and what it does. Now is the time. Now is time to deliver those technologies step by step. As one said, we see it, we understand it, we know what to do with it. Will become one of the basic structures of many of new organizations and the works which has been done and will be developed. As I always said, if you look at the sands in the desert, the knowledge up to now, what we learn, is one of those sands in that desert. We should not be proud that we are the sand. We are a sand which has enough knowledge of the physical world of the man. The rest of the sands in that desert is the rest of the knowledge of the creation and the creator. In your cycle of sand, how many of the other sands you come in touch with that you understand that there are so many in the desert? We have opened that sand, that grain of sand in the desert of the knowledge of the man, that the man becomes aware of the desert he's in, the desert of his own ignorance, but the vastness of the knowledge and the others which are in others. We need to learn, we need to understand, and we need to understand the principle of the creation, that we understand how every grain lives and works on its own, and how we can move into and understand it and move out to bring them to see how it is. There is no difference. If you look at the number of the sands in the desert, the number of the stars in the sky, maybe there are more stars in the universe than there are sand grains in the desert. Then you understand, even as a grain, now we have the capability to understand the totality of some, and in time, maybe a little more than some. And this should not make us proud and ignorant to the fact that we know nothing is still at all. In a coming time, when you become, and your children become, and your grandchildren become the travelers of the space, the true way, teach them one thing. Always be humble that you can receive, and not arrogant that you cannot give. By receiving, you gather strength. By receiving, you gather knowledge. By receiving, you become somewhere down the line, maybe just about equal in the knowledge of the creation, if you can meet with every grain of sand in that world. For man to gain the total knowledge of the universe, man has to travel to every single universe, and every single star, and every single planet, and every single life on each of the positions in the universe of the Creator. Because each one is unique. Each one has its own principle of the creation, it has own condition, and it has its own dimension in the world of the creation. And without one grain of sand, you cannot have a desert. But with a collection of sand, you make that desert. In the desert sand, we don't see any difference between the sand. And as we pick it up and observe it closely, as they say, to find a matching stone, matching green in the desert is like trying to find a matching snowflake. So every grain is different, even though they look the same from outside. And for man to learn the knowledge of the Creator, you have to learn about everything about how that grain was created and what lives within it, and how that structure of life has given it the manifestation of the world. Then you understand, with all the knowledge which man is proud of achieving, you have not even become that grain of sand, let alone the grain in the desert of the knowledge and creation of the Creator. Once we understand this, we start moving forward. Once we understand that the knowledge we gain is part of the knowledge of understanding the totality. Once we understand how the interaction of the fields lead to what condition, then we become part of the knowledge that by working out, by comprehending, we add to the knowledge of the others, that they have access to us unconditionally. In a way, it becomes us. In a way, it becomes the soul of humanity that teaches the soul of the universal community as a whole, what we learn, be it what we learned from the fish, be it what we learned from the trees, be it what we learned from the sand. When you look at the new knowledge, and now that you understand even the stone, even the sand has a soul, then you have to carry that knowledge within you from earth, that when you meet with the others in the universe, we can transfer that knowledge. Then we come to understand the totality of the creation. Then we become humble enough to understand where we are about to go and what we are about to learn. And then we have to understand what will be the next step in the development of the science and technology for us. Which way we decide as knowledge seekers and the collaborators with us to where and how to share this knowledge that we all understand. We need to develop technologies that we can communicate with the soul of the plants. We can communicate with the soul of the fish and the dog and the cat. That we understand we can communicate. If we cannot communicate with our own soul, with the dimension we are born in, how do we expect to communicate with those of the space? In the next few months and years, man has to understand how to communicate non-verbally through the soul with the other creatures of this planet, which were us up to now. They were all like walking, or they were going up the wall, and we picked their fruit. We need to understand this. We need to comprehend. And then, once we accomplish how to interact with the soul of each other, how to interact with the soul of the other creatures of this planet, how we respect each other's soul, then we are ready to enter in the world of the Creator in other dimensions to be able to interact with the other souls of the universe. Many of you will come in the next few weeks and months to question your own integrity of the knowledge. Many of you in the coming months and years will question yourself. What have I understood? What have I missed? And what I need to understand to become part of? If you want us to ship you into a fish tank, you're quite welcome. But if you want to become true passengers of the universe, you have to learn to let go of the dimension of physicality of the man and live and exist in the dimension of energy of his soul. Then we have two tourists, physical tourists and the soul tourists. And what happens if the husband wants to go with the soul and the wife wants to go with the physicality? What are the future mayhems we shall see? And what will be the structure of our governments to allow which and which? We will see a total change in the approach of what we call the funny passports and no entry visas and the rest of it. I don't need you to issue me a visa to enter your airport, as I'm already sitting in your pocket as an apple because I decided to be an apple in your pocket. Do we need now to issue passports and visas for every apple and orange and every bird? Now you understand what this technology has brought. And I said many times in a very clear way, do the birds which migrate have a passport on their tails, passing every border, starting from Siberia to African destinations? Do they present their passports when they land in South Africa, coming all the way from Europe? Sorry, have you got vaccination? Otherwise, you cannot land. Go back. Now, man is in that position. With the development of the new technologies, with understanding of your effect and the power of your soul, I wonder how many of you have a soul passport? And how would you show it? The upcoming changes in the world of technology and transmutation and transportation will create another headache, but a freedom for governments. What I call international, national taxation for providing services, well, that's on the card. It's a reality of the next few years, where collectively all the areas, whatever you country you call yourself, become responsible for collective care of everyone. Because with a new enhancement, what we call health unit, we don't need to move to a hospital to get a better service in Germany than we can get in Africa, because now we get the same service in Africa as we get in Germany, because doctors of the Keshe Foundation are there to provide you irrelevant of your nationality, time, and position. As I said in our talks with the people of the government very recently, your nation is awake 8 to 12 hours a day. The systems are workable 24 hours a day. The same system in your country, now after passing of the time of the day here, are usable by the rest of the people in other continents which their day stops. Then we see international collaboration and setting up of the systems for healthcare and food become part of one nation. I built the structure of this technology as one nation, one race. In the near future, governments which use the food and the green and energy as a means of control will live in the doldrums of their own dreams. With one app, you get the food. With one app, you get the medicine. With one app, you get the energy you need, and that app is free. And then, who can control? Then, who will become the governor? Then it becomes for those who control the totality to deliver the totality. When a nation is not worried about feeding its citizens, when a nation is not worried about the energy to deliver to citizens, when a nation can deliver the health care and welfare at any point to its citizens, that nation is at peace. That nation will find comfort. You don't find no one robbing no one to eat. We don't find someone selling drugs to have money to eat. And then we find out most of the addictions of the man, but being provided for, becomes irrelevant. The world without addiction of killing to survive. World without addiction to destroy, to possess. In the next few months, you will witness one of the biggest industrial revolutions in the history of man. In the next coming up weeks, you will see step by step how the progressive development of the technology will become applicable to many people through the interim use and understanding of the technology. From where we sit today, and when we look at the next 10 years, most of the government's budgets will go through the window. Because you don't need to allocate money for food that your nation is fed. You don't need to allocate money for energy that Arabs can hold on to charge you more, for the king of Saudi to have a better woman, nicer woman, and more of them in the same bed. That's all we've done. We have given with our rights to work day and night to pay for the fuel for these people to become the abusers of the man himself. When you can have all the energies, Arabs can sell their sand to themselves. These are not talks. These are, as we see in next 5 or 10 years, now becomes a reality of what we call one nation, one planet, one race. Equality to access to the basic amenities through the technology. We set up this through the system we offered you a few months ago. For health, this, for food, that. Even those we put up in a very near future will be revamped into a very effective, powerful way to deliver. And this will come out of disasters, not out of the pleasure of the world leaders and governments. When we see another massive earthquake, when we see another massive flood, when people know the technology is there, they just call their family, get this app, you have food, get this app, you have medicine, get this app, you have energy, you don't need to die under the earthquake which happened in the desert or in a snow place and die of hunger, lack of medicine or frost. And then this become natural process as more and more will get access to it. It's the responsibility of the Keshe Foundation and knowledge seekers to deliver these technologies today, not tomorrow. And we've done our best. And we are on the verge of breakthrough to achieve it. But we have to play, as I'll call, 2 horses at the same time. One, gradual introduction of technology that majority of the population can understand, and one, the fast track that the advancement in technology can be understood by some, that those who come in a slow coach can join in the next 3 to 5 years to join the fast track. I was privy, or I was put in a position in the very recent past, without anybody knowing. I was just a bystander sitting outside, and there was a discussion between men of military at the highest level. And one said to the other, we have the latest so-and-so from America, and by the law, we have to fly 35 hours a year. Our pilots have to keep the standard and our certification. He says, all our pilots, maximum flown last 2 years is 4 hours. We don't have the fuel. We don't know why we are buying these things. We should don't have the fuel to fly. Tens of millions paid in the death of a nation to protect it. And those who are trained to protect it don't have the money to train and live with it. Very soon, we'll pay visit to the runways of the nation's military bases to watch these obsolete F-18s and all others, the drones which could travel and do whatever they like. Because you send the F-17, F-18, F-16, we don't need to fight anymore. We just create a field that the pilot does not even want to have a fight. He will land, he says, take the aircraft, it's yours. Even they bring electronic remote, we can change the essence of the emotion of the drone. We don't need to capture it like 4th of December in 2011. Don't forget, even the chip, through the interaction of the fields of it, has a soul. And when you get that information to the soul of the chip, goodbye. I'll explain to you something for the first time, and I'm sure my colleagues and friends will kick me for it, but let me tell you a secret of technology. When you capture a drone through the process of the case manager, and in the long-term haul to land it, you'll find out something very strange. In some of the reports, when the Americans got trapped by the fields of the submarine and aircrafts of what we call the Russian Air Force in the May of a few years ago, this was not revealed by the Americans because they were ashamed to say. But those who captured the drones of the Americans and now can do like catching a fly, you find out one thing. We can copy the chip on every latest drone we capture. It's a very simple system. You literally put it through MRI system and you rotate it, and every circuitry Americans spend billions of dollars to create for a drone to do certain thing is in the chip. But there's one problem with this chip. When you put it through magnetic field of the capture, it all gets screwed up. The chip burns out. The chip doesn't burn out. It becomes what we call ineffective because the fields all connect to each other and there's no field. You capture a drone with the latest chip technology in it, but not flyable. Don't forget the American 24/7 soldiers of America, when Donald Duck arrived in the Romanian port, they told us, but nobody understood, that the officers could not even talk to each other on their mobiles on the board of the ship because the mobiles are all short-circuited. And if you keep it long enough, as knowledge seekers, you know, they get nano-coated. So when a nation like Iranian forces capture the drone, we get a dead duck. Literally, what happened to Donald Duck is a shut down duck. Americans would not tell you this, that we got the ship back, it's perfect, but electronically it doesn't work. They even couldn't understand how this works. It's the first time we explained to them the magnetic fields created by gravitational fields, by the frequencies, creates a short circuit of the fields and the system does not work. Magnetic field trapping. So when you want to copy the chip, you put an MRI, you make a copy of it, but the copy works now because you had the original, which is short-circuited. But in the new one, you don't see short-circuit because it's a new chip. So as I said the message to the American administration that time, we can give you your dead dog back. The systems going through new space technology has to be developed in the way that electromagnetic fields, plasmatic fields, cosmic ray fields does not affect their operation. And there is a way to do it. What you put in the space has to come back to you, not to be affected by the fields of the space. This is the reason we developed this technology. At the speed of light and above light, you pass through many field strengths, different power, different combination, different direction. One like positrons, like electrons, one another. You can't have the condition which once we put the American drone through, It all looks good, but nothing inside it. That's why we put it on the platform to show it. We couldn't fly it. Now you know why the Iranian put the drone on the platform and they showed it in December of 2011. Because electronically it was unflyable, because by capturing it electronically, plasmatic magnetic field wise, we short-circuited everything. But now we can sell the drones cheaper than you because we just put every single chip, we copied it physically, and now we can make it. The same Americans took the Donald Duck back to America and they found out, sorry, it's just a drone. They brought parts and replaced it and it worked, but never understood why it didn't work. Because high field plasma condition, those little fine wires, which is drawn by microchip lines, they're very sensitive to high fields of plasma and they nanocoat themselves. They become isolated, insulated superconductor, which means they don't work. So in the development of the new space technology, we have to consider all these. We learned when the drone landed in Iran that, we have a dead duck. Don't worry, which I'll tell you this, because Iranian government released my name as a man behind the development of the technology February of last year. So I'm officially known to be involved with these kind of technologies. And Iranian television in the past few weeks had released 10 or 15-minute program showing me as the new father of the new space technology of Iran. So it's not a secret. So we can tell you how 10 years ago, after we said on the what we call 3rd of December, we're going to show the power of the technology. On the 4th of December, we captured the most powerful toy of the American that President Obama said, can we have our toys back? Up to now was the most advanced drone in the world. But the question comes, do we need to spend money on the useless defense technology, which has no use anymore? And then we need to go into the space technology, which is real. Do we need to fight, or do we deliver the waves of love and care and harmony to the pilot in a fighter which is heading to drop a bomb? It turns back. I'm there to defend my territory. I'm not there to kill. You got to understand. Now with this new technology, we are entering a new era of understanding the emotion and the soul of man and the creatures. And we need to learn that to be able to survive in space. We need to do that to be able to travel the depth of space. We need to understand the working of the universe. Then it comes to the new position, that how do we take next step? And would we use the new opportunities created for us to show the new ways of thinking and to show the new ways of living that will bring that change? In so many ways, in the next few weeks and in the next few months, you will see a change in the attitude of the world leaders due to manifestation, presentation of the new technologies, which is based on the development, understanding of the plasma technology, and not exclusively by the Keshe Foundation. As now we open the doors of flooding the world of business and technology with a new knowledge, with a new understanding, knowledge seekers, new scientists as knowledge seekers will speed up the delivery of the technology, will speed up the understanding of the technology and the spread of the plasma technology. We don't see many what we call the Industrial Revolution tools of understanding the work of the steam anymore. Except when we go to sonar, we want a little bit of it under fire. The same shall be the present technologies which we are used to at the present time. In the coming weeks and months, new doors, new opportunities, new tools, new ways for development and delivery of technologies will be accepted and done by the government that will bring that change. A new era in the world of science of the man, understanding the work of plasma, delivery of the plasma, and new dimension directions, new universities which teach the real work of the universe, not the way we were fooled by Einstein. A smart Jewish boy, but unfortunately, like the rest, belongs to the wall, bang their head against it. In so many ways, in the coming weeks and time, many of you as knowledge seekers will look at the knowledge and the science in a different way. As you become more, as it becomes more in the domain of public, and the explanation and use of it becomes more public. Maybe it's time to start a change. Maybe when you, as the members of the Keshe Foundation, met with the world leaders, not as subordinate, but as those what you wanted to bring and change, has come to flourishing. Let's see what time it is, and let's see what man will decide to bring as a change. In the second, third quarter of this month, this year, we endeavor to learn the first two people on the surface of the earth, in the dimension of the soul, in the dimension of them deciding manifestation of physicality. And then in the mass orders to governments and operations, once the one is shown with the others. We go for a break and we come back and we listen to what your questions are, and we can enlighten each other with the knowledge of the future. Thank you very much, Rick. If you want to go through a break.
Very, very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. We'll take a few minutes here for commercial messages of our spaceship units, and be back shortly. This is the 483rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Okay.
The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit is due to be launched in June 2022 and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation, and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food, or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo, and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology.
Okay, welcome back to the 483rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 27th, 2023. Okay, this is the second half of the program, which usually means that Mr. Keshe is willing to answer questions from people. Is that true today, Mr. Keshe, or is there some other things you'd like to say?
More or less, yes. There's a couple of things I've been asked to raise some points here about. The list we put on now, you see on the screen. We received donations to supply very large numbers of products as a donation to knowledge seekers who could ask for it. It was there. It was paid for. All you need was to ask for it if you could have it. We have fulfilled all these donations and requests. These are the balance of the items which are left to be still to be donated. It's been paid for. If it's yours, just don't ask for it, and then just for the sake of having it. If it's used to you, it's like gas, education, travel kit. It's so many. It tells you one kit left. GANS household reactor, one piece. GANS household reactor is 4 of them. Keshgans pants long XXL is one piece of the donation left. And there's another one, 2 of them. So we have 2 pants left of the full lot. Household reactors, 4 of them, and 1 GANS education travel kit. This is a small case for what you call it, children, or if you start. So out of huge number of donation, this is what is left to any of you have any interest in or have a use for it. Just don't get it because you can ask for it instead. Somebody might have a use for it, and so be generous about it. Is we received some donations from others. They paid for anyone who wanted to be part of the what we call the trials of tomorrow for addiction. Everything has been allocated. Whatever comes to us, we have allocated and we have delivered. Most of you receive most of your products when you ask for it next few days or weeks. As the things come, most have left. Keshe Foundation is on the way to you. And if there are more people who would like to donate to the foundation, say what they want to donate for, we put it up and you can make what do you call it. These are all postage and package. Everything has been paid by the donator. It's just that if you have a need for it, there was a very large list. Now this is what is left. All been sent or allocated to go. And we still have those, a few paintings. We received some ridiculous offers by a couple of people, which would say, we leave it to you, you're conscious. They're still available if you want them. They're in Keshe Foundation Exhibition Center. And we still look for donations. Do not forget, those of you who've been donating or sending money to Keshe Foundation Holland from outside EU, now this account is closed and is transferred to the Keshe Foundation new accounts, which if you write to info, they give you the new accounts where you can make the donations to. And wherever you buy, any purchases from outside EU now will go through the new account system and not through the Keshe Foundation Holland. If there are any other points which we can help you with, you can raise a question. But primarily, we have to inform you the Keshe Foundation Austria Exhibition Center within the next few weeks will shut down totally. Operation, we move the systems and our equipment into a new location to one of the largest cities in the world. We are relocating that more people can see, more people can have access to, and becomes one of what we call flagships of the new technology and development exhibitions. And we will inform you as it's done in the next 2, 3, 4 months when it reopens in the position and how it's going to be set up. And we move totally our operation out of the nation of Austria in the coming months, as we cannot operate in the system which is run and the way we now develop our technology in a different way. You are still there for a few months to come, but Keshe Foundation, we ended up in Austria by accident, total, something out of control, but it was the best thing happened to us in so many ways. We came across some of the most beautiful knowledge seekers, and this process now moves. It was not ever planned for us to move to Austria. It was done on the betrayal in marriage, and we saw it. We were moved there, and now we are moving back to a proper structure, and we'll see what happens in the coming time. So You're going back in a stable position for a long term with a beautiful, hopefully, exhibition centers, which many of you can come to and see in one of the most beautiful capitals of the world. We will not be in the mainland Europe, but it'll be an amazing place for you to see, and is set up to bring the technology in the public domain in a very beautiful way. In time, once we finish, we'll ask some of you could participate in part of the exhibition, as you have done something for the foundation to show the evolution of the science and technology around the world. You can still join the 200 people group. The 25 is full. Now we are looking for the 200. You can sign in and join in, and that'll be part of the, as I said, most probably 40, 50 of you will become one of the first passengers of transportation into the structure of the colonies we are setting up to become part. Many of you ask us, how can we join it? Just go to info at Keshe Foundation and you ask for it. They'll be given. If you're outside Europe, you pay to the new accounts. If you're inside Europe, you make a payment to the Keshe Foundation in Holland to what we call further notice. And then the Keshe Foundation moves totally, is structural work in a totally different dimension, as is announced by the government. Most of the moves we'll make in the coming time will be in cooperation and collaboration with national governments, and this is the way we want it to be. And once we achieve and complete it, you will understand that Keshe Foundation has become an international organization, and many of you work towards it, and we are hoping to complete in the next few weeks. And in that process, many of the knowledge seekers around the world will become part of the work of the structure. The only thing is, just because you're a knowledge seeker does not give you the God-given right, as we call it. You have to be, whatever it is, excellent proof that you can do that as normal work in any other organization. You have to carry your own, what we call, load on the strip. If there are any questions, let's us answer, and then we go to the next step.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have a number of questions here, interesting questions in the Q&A. We'll start off with Peter, I believe he's from Poland, who asks, hello, Mr. Keshe. In trying to visualize single rays to better understand total plasma basics, my questions are, question 1, let's say we have 2 rays in the same environment. The environment is in the strength of a hydrogen. One ray is in the strength of a carbon, and the other ray is in the strength of a bismuth. Which ray is bigger and which ray is smaller? And is the difference between them in this environment just the size?
First of all, this is not the physicality that the size counts. It's, you have to understand, go back on one of the pictures, I think it's book 3. And somewhere in book 2, there's another relevant picture. Does not matter if you have plutonium or carbon or whatever else. Doesn't matter if it's a hydrogen, oxygen, or whatever environment, magnetic field environment. You always have interaction of the fields with the others and the friction and the division, what we call the sparks, with it. So you can stay in the strength of the carbon, but in the interaction with the fields and density of the fields, plasmatic magnetic fields, you create subdivisions and above divisions fields that you get the spectrum of all fields, even though you're in carbon. And in those interactions, let's say you put them, and then it has the same interaction, same environment, parts of the fields of the what we call equal from both rays will interact and create a condition of balance. This is part of understanding the work of the field. When a ray goes through an environment of hydrogen, you call it this magnetic field hydrogen. It's not in the matter state you're talking. If it's a matter state, it hits, absorbs, releases anyone. But if we talk about environment of the magnetic field of hydrogen and the gravitational magnetic field strength, then you see a spectrum of different fields. We've seen this, we tried to publish this in the book, I think it was the first book, where we show the Raman spectroscopy. When we brought infrared spectroscopy and Raman spectroscopy data out, we saw a massive range of fields released from hydrogen to above plutonium, from one ray, one field, just the CO2. So when you understand this, you look at the totality. You don't say which has, because that, whatever you have in comparison to the other, can actually be in more interaction with the hydrogen than the carbon. Then it has less, because it's not the interaction of carbon and whatever the other material is interaction with the fields of the environment. And then those fields with each other, which dictates the condition and the field strength. In so many ways, you could have a carbon in one environment to be the strongest, and you change slightly the hydrogen field strength still in hydrogen to 1 or 2 interaction. The hydrogen loses environmental energy to another, then you find out it becomes weaker. So when you look at the plasma interactions, field interactions, you have to understand there is not singularity in the environment of the test or observation or which one is going to be strong. It's not anymore how many carbon you have and how many oxygen or hydrogen you have. Is what is the field interaction and in a given dimension and direction in the fields. Then you always look at the spectrum. And this is one of the ways that production of the cosmic rays we look at. In technology development, we are fully aware of these things. And we use it. Any other question?
Okay, it's got a second question. It may be the same answer in a way. Pardon me? Sorry?
A friend of Jalal with 2 and 3 questions.
Yes, well, he's trying to, as he says, visualize these rays. And the first question was about rays. The second question is actually about 2 plasmas. So he says, let's say we have 2 plasmas in the same environment. For example, in one jar of water, we have GaNs of carbon, and in another jar of water, we have GaNs of bismuth. Which single sphere of plasma in this case is bigger, and which is smaller compared to the other?
It goes by the same rule.
It's kind of a trick question because it forces you to answer in the physicality, but you want to answer in the terms of the fields. And
we are in the field dimension. It's like when you, I'm sure many of you have seen it, we talked about it many times, when you put 2 gases, especially CO2 or zinc, next to each other, you see that the one gradually column goes up on one side. I don't know if you've seen it. When you put 2 bottles or 2 gas bottles of different material, one of them gets pulled up to the side and it goes up the glass, which is illogical in the world of physical dimension. But in fact, as a, pardon?
I was going to say, yes, we've seen that in the Keshe Plasma reactor group a few times over the years.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you cannot speak about plasma and try to fit it into the world. It doesn't work. You cannot be camel bird and call yourself ostrich. You have to decide. If you're talking about dimension of the bottle of a gans of this, bottle of gans of that, you have to find out what's the interaction. So go and live in one and or the other and compare what happens to me in this one, what happens to me in that one. This is one of the biggest problems we have in Keshe Foundation. And but many scientists have been on the table. They try to fit a plasma, understanding of a plasma, into the material state, and it doesn't work. So this doesn't fit the law of physics we understood, we've been taught. Yes, because you cannot mix oil and water together. How come you understand that? But you cannot understand, you cannot mix plasma with the matter state unless you bring the strength of the plasma down enough to manifest itself in the matter. Then you can say what it is. It's exactly what happens in your blood. In your blood, you have iron, but it's not pieces of iron coming from a nail. It's iron in a plasmatic magnetic field of the vacuum of the body of the man in his own condition of the vacuum. And then when the man pulls it out, now you're in a matter state. It's exactly what I told you when we send you to the moon. When we send you to the moon, it's the reverse. You are inside atmospheric condition of the Earth, outside atmospheric condition of the moon. In this world, why all our sciences are upside down, as we call it, we are outside and we go inside the body of the man, we take something from inside, and now we want to fit it to us. It's not that. You go inside the blood, you see, if you see a single iron atom flying, you see it as an energy, you see it as plasma. And this is where there is a huge problem in the world of science today for people to understand the plasma technology. Plasma is a plasma, matter state is a matter state. What happened in a transition? But we take your blood out and we can count ions in it and calcium in it. Yes, you can, because you change this environment. In this environment, this is what it shows itself. Energy of calcium was a calcium matter state. So we have no choice now. We open the space technology, so we come to understand it. Which environment, what field strength, what gravitational magnetic field, what inertia is involved in us manifesting the energy as a gans, as a matter state. And if you don't get confused and understand this, then you start progressing forward. This is why 99% of you as knowledge seekers are got stuck with a mega units and don't understand it. Even our own knowledge seekers have problem with this at the highest level. I explained how a maggraph system has to be made. We got our experts to make it. And they use old systems, which shows already reduction, but they did not do it the way we asked it to be done. We tested, doesn't work, it's zero. But when we looked at the structure of field flow, it was not the way it was told to be done. Another team has restructured it the way it was supposed to be done. Now we see magnetic reduction, magnetic field increase, and reduction in electricity bills. Because you have to follow everything as a plasma, not when it suits. 99% of you, which made the maggraphs as hasn't worked, you have not understood how you yourself have put a spanner in your work. You have not understood, even though it's in the drawing of it is in the drawing, but look at it the way it's done. And then you find out. How come some of you have a huge reduction and some of you, oh, it's all fake. The fakeness is in your knowledge. not in our technology. And this is one of the biggest problems, because you try to fit a plasma technology, which is created by the matter, into the matter state, which doesn't work and it doesn't exist. Any other question?
Okay, you mentioned the moon, and there was a question in YouTube from Antonio about the first two people on the moon. Will they be able to bring back evidence when they return back on Earth?
We hope so. There are a couple. No way. And we hope, yes. Don't forget, we tested this in knowledge seekers. He could be listening himself. One of your knowledge seekers, when he came to Linz, he said he's in the moon. He went to the moon and he could feel the stones. We put him back in the machine again. We said, okay, can you pick up the stones and put them outside? And we watched him. He was actually physically picking up the stones and putting them outside. And we asked him to drop it. We were not ready. Today we have the machine, we have this technology, we have developed it, that if he put his hand inside what we give him to drop it, we would have seen the moonstones. Now we have the technology. We developed the technology for this purpose. So if without that we have the what we call the tools of conversion, because we dictate the whole understanding of inertia. Yes, whatever they collect, we can manifest as a matter state when they land, when they come back. Basically, the biggest thing for us will be to send the people from excursions to the position and the place where Americans claim they landed in 1960s. Would we see the remnants of the Apollo? Would we see the flags? Would we see the footprints by now is long gone? The dust has covered them up. What would the Americans claim? Oh, it was there, the moon dust has taken it. Out of 2 or 3 landings, we should be able to see the truth. And that is in the next few months. And we hope we haven't taken for a fool. And we hope they can stand it. So we give a notice to the American NASA organization, please come up straight, because soon, in the next few months, there'll be 2, German and the Russian, checking out. And let's see if a lot of claims of false flag and really done, and it's all Hollywood scenery, and it's a reality with the sand and the stones become a reality. As I said, when I was invited, I went to Iran years ago. I went to the building, you see the symbol of Iran, the Freedom Square. Underneath there, as a child of very, very young age, I went and I queued for hours to see a stone which the American gifted to the Iranians, and it was put there for display to see. I wonder if I wasted hours of my life standing for a fake stone from Arizona desert, or was really truly a stone from the moon. And our travelers in the next few months will tell us. It's as simple as that. We know some people, what do you call it? Will claim that America's never been. Some people say they've been, and all beings now become to being as the new technology delivers. Any other question?
Okay, our next question is from Jefferson Modesto from Brazil, who says, thank you very much for your presence among us. Please correct me if I'm wrong. From what we learned from you, our planet does not provide all the energy that the beings that inhabit it need because it was created with the wrong intention. The creator of our planet and the other planets in the solar system is the sun. So did the sun have the wrong intention in creating the earth? What was wrong with the sun's intention at the time of Earth's creation? If all creatures on earth are created with the same wrong intention, and that wrong intention cannot be carried to other locations in the universe, can we only leave here when the entire structure of the earth is corrected? Thank you very much.
There are two questions to ask, and maybe this will answer you. There is something else I have to tell you before we go. All your Brazilians have lost your Telegram chats due to a court order in Brazil that none of you can use Telegram anymore. And you all migrated to Zoom for your common, what you call, connections and whatever knowledge sharing. Those of you who come through Zoom, you have not noticed it from Brazil. This has happened, and it's a court order, nothing to do with us. The whole of Brazil has lost its Telegram by not following the, what do we call it, court order, delivering the, what do you call it, private information of people or their communications to the government. And so what we see, you must see reduction or total loss of the Brazilians outside Brazil communicate. The Brazilian channel, they all have migrated to the Zoom of the Keshe Foundation channel, which is set up by Rafael. And answering your question, we need to understand the principle of the work. And we need to understand the interaction of the fields. Many of these questions is just a repeat and repeat questions. And what we see, the Keshe Foundation knowledge has to be understood in its totality. Then many of these questions, what even you're asking, is the third, fourth, fifth time you hear. You'll find it in the archives of the Keshe Foundation. Any other question?
Okay, another question from the Brazilian community says, last week you said when the gravity of the planet is formed, the higher order absorbs the lower order or weaker strength fields, and then mass is created. What does higher order mean? Because doesn't the stronger give to the weaker, But in this case, you're saying the higher absorbs the weaker and creates plasmas.
The understanding is when we call it the higher order. Higher order fields, stronger fields, dictate the gravity, the level of the gravity. In order to create gravity, you need both field strength, magnetical and gravitational. And the highest order is a field interaction. So anything when we say absorbs, it means below that the strength is already covered within. So the highest order that the Earth gravitational field can absorb, and we know as a data of material, let's say it's plutonium, whatever we have up to now, a few elements further up the, what do you call it, in the table of the materials, in the periodic table, wherever you look at, this is what we can, they tell you is so many percentage, and the rest we call it exotic. So anything below the last material we have actually observed to be able to detect on this planet is the highest order, the strength field. And the other elements above this plasmatic field strength that exist in other planetary systems, in other part of the universe, but Earth does not have within its strength to be able to interact with them to pull them in, because collective fields of the Earth are not that strong to that strength to be able to absorb. The same is below submatter hydrogen. There are fields which they can manifest themselves as a matter state below hydrogen, but we do not have the field strength to absorb them. So we don't see them as a matter state of subatomic structure. And when we say the highest order is not to give, is to include, to be able to absorb. If you're monoenergetic, plasmatic field, you're like a star. When you're a composite, the highest field strength dictates the gravity. And the fields of the gravity and the strength of the gravitational field of that planet. Because it cannot absorb. If your gravitational field does not go over the strength of the copper, sorry, on that planet you won't see any zinc. It does not have it to absorb it, to interact with it, to create it, does not possess it to create the inertia for its manifestation in matter state. That's what it means. It's not that the higher gives to a lower, it's understanding the creation of fields and their interaction and creation of what we call the plasma, and at the same time, for it to exist through interaction of the mass to what we call the weight interaction, or what we call the weight interaction equal inertia, allows the manifestation of matter state of that field. If you don't have the inertia of a given material, you cannot manifest it as a matter. It does not matter even if it exists in the dimension of plasma. This is why we see these creatures above the planet Earth, recorded by NASA, been spoke about it many times, because Earth does not have the inertial value of their field strength to convert it at that level to the matter state that we see them as a new animal, new structure. We create a plasmatic field inertia of them, and they exist above. If you want to see them as a living things on Earth, we do not have inertia field strength to extend that far to allow them to convert in the manifestation of matter state. That's what it means. It's not that the highest give to lowest, and it's all through the common denominator field strength. There are matters we know. You got to realize something very simple. go through the human physiology. And whatever we have in periodic table, which the gravitational magnetic field of the earth has manifested to be seen as a matter state, you find it in the body of the man, one way or another, in somewhere, and they can measure it, and they tell you, even as plutonium, there is such an amount of it in the body of the man somewhere. Because we create gravitational magnetic field, plasmatic field that interacts with the inertial magnetic field, the strength of the planet. So we, in our body, we absorb it according to the ratio. And this is why I always say, if it is on this planet, as a matter state, you find it in the body of the man, somewhere the DNA and RNA have managed to use it to the advantage of the use, speeding up certain things or interacting with some parts of the body of the man. There is no matter which is not in the, which is in the periodic table of the elements of this planet, which does not exist in the body of the man. Impossibilities. We have to find it, where it is and how much it is, how minute it could be. So when you speak about the high order, is what the field strength in the interaction of the magnetic gravitational field of the center hydrogen allows to be the highest order inertia to be created with the gravitational field interaction to give the mass of the body of the entity. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question from George. George B, who asks, with the new technologies that you are about to reveal in the near future, would it be possible to treat Alzheimer with a patient that has hip replacement?
Hip replacement, we do not touch. We always said it, and we are very clear about it, the reason of it. Alzheimer's is handled by the doctors at Keshwat.
So even though they've had a hip replacement, they can still treat the Alzheimer?
No, cannot be done. Cannot be done. Cannot be done. If you have any external motors, valves, hip replacement, because this is a plasmatic system, it covers everything. There are cases which has been tested by some cases, but at that time it looks perfect. I got rid of everything else, but because you have started the process, now you, in the long term, you see the growth of the bones or hip bones, and then because it's weeks and months later down, you got your memory back, but now the bone is growing, and then you have another hip problem. Because you create, we know what is at the time. This is clarity about the knowledge. This is not doing what the present pharmaceutical does. Present pharmaceutical data research from Canadian government over 20-30 years tells us clearly, people over 55 who go through chemotherapy, research papers published by the Canadian government through the universities and research development centers, majority of the people, a very large percentage, die within 5 to 7 years after chemotherapy. And they studied this over 20-30 years. And then the pharmaceuticals never tell you this, because they cannot tell you, we're giving you death sentence 5 years or 7 years. Chemotherapy is beautiful, yes, my thing. But due to the process of the aging, reduction in the strength of the bone marrow and the rest, all these people die of a very simple cold. And they say, oh, he died of cold, not from chemo. But in fact, chemo caused blockages of the holes of the bone, which led to no immune system. In this technology, we can't do this. We have to be transparent. There are knowledge which is there, the technologies which is there, which in conjunction with us can create new conditions. And with the knowledge we have to stop it. We are not there just to, we are a stichting, we are a foundation. We work through the structure to bring benefits and understanding, not just getting things done. Even when tests done by our doctors or we've done things in the past, we inform fully what could be the consequences of it. Yes, you cannot use, because long run, with the plasmatic fields in the body of the man, the growth of the bone is a very high possibility. And then what happened with the extension of the hip you put in? If you haven't had a hip transplant, I know our doctors are busy with a case like this. You see if the bone marrow can help with the cartilage to grow, and you don't need to change the hip and the rest of it. Then yes, we can look at different things. But if you have Alzheimer's and hip replacement, sorry, the truth is, through our experience, bone will grow, because now they found the fields of the strength within the system that allows them to grow, because they usually naturally grow. This is what happens when you're a baby. You don't, you're not born out of the womb of the mother with 10 centimeter femur, and when you're 50 years old, you still have 10 centimeter bones grow. So that's a habit of the structure. What was cut off, now they want to cover, and then they push the processes while they were out, and then they break the hip bone. So this is the reason we say, at the moment, with the knowledge we have, no. And this is what I said to the officials from the government. With the new space technology which we bring in, if we bring you, as many of you have been offered this, but you never understood what was on the table to you, is this cover of the what we call the policy by the Keshe Foundation. If you go into prevention, so if you put, let's say, 1 million people on prevention today, 10% have a cancer, 10% have a heart problem, 20% have Alzheimer's, and the rest of it. Out of this, let's say 1 million people. Some of them are at the early age, they have none of it, but they go through the process of prevention. In 20 years' time, those who came in at the beginning of the process will die off. They are 50, 60, 100 years, 80 years old, and they die. But those who join in at 15, 16 as part of the family, now they have no more diseases, because they went through prevention twice a year. So we'll see less diseases over 60, 70, 80 years old. They live a very perfect life. Living a sick life in the coming decades, it'll be unheard of. Most of the diseases today we suffer for, with especially now what is coming in with the collaboration of the Keshe Foundation with the major governments around the world, we will see reduction in the next 20, 30 years of the number of the people being ill of the hospitals. Because the new generation has to go through prevention regularly. Fix it before it becomes a problem. You don't have the problem in 20, 30 years' time. When you have a hip injury to a football game at the age of 25, in the age of 30, 35, 40 becomes a hip replacement. When you've gone through the process, you know you have a hip problem, and the prevention technology has been used to regrow the cartilage, you don't need a hip replacement 30 years down the line. The world of pharmaceutical and medicine is going to be radically changing in the coming time. When you have a problem with your son, you cannot handle it, and then if 40 years down the time become a prostate cancer, when you go through a prevention, even you join it at the first year of your marriage before you had a child, and then you had a child and you have a problem with him, it's already psychologically through the process has been failed. So reduction in the hospitals, reduction in care will become a thing of the past. In a way, we reduce it so much that it won't exist. People with Alzheimer's, in the new generation of going through prevention, I think it will be a very, very rare case. And even if it appears, technology that will handle it at the outset, not till nothing can be seen. So, yes, if you didn't have a hip replacement and you had Alzheimer's, doctors can help you. The new technology can do something for you. But if you had a transplant, if you had a, any kind of surgery which physically something put in your body, we say no, because we understand the problems it can create. One interesting point is that in the coming months, the wellness, welfare, health of the Keshe Foundation will be handled by governments in a very big way. And I wonder how many Belgians will move out of Belgium to receive these cares or try to use. We blocked all the apps into Belgium. And they come out of Belgium, they change their passport to receive the wellness care of the Keshe Foundation, knowing that the others are benefited by it. Our work now, through a structure of its progress, has moved on to a very, very different way of processing with the doctors. And even our doctors are learning because they were trained in a matter state, in a physical state. They've never seen a psychological pattern in most diseases, and how even you can use psychology to change physical damages. And this is a process which will take a long time to teach and to learn and to be taught. As I said, past few weeks, gentleman in the meeting says, the guy said, this is against all the books written by Newton's law and Einstein. He said, we write the books for the others to learn from us with a new technology. And we have started writing the new books. And most of you carry book number 1, 2, and 3. The books you have, we call it book 1, 2, and 3, will become the basis of the new education in the world of science. Not because we wrote it, because it's what explains man will look at the plasma and the creation. Any other question?
Well, we have another medical type question, and you can, of course, reserve to answer it in whatever degree you wish, Mr. Keshe, because I know we're restricted somewhat in that way. But I thought we should address it. This is from Sarah in the chat here. Says, hello, Mr. Keshe. This is a big honor to hear you in this online session. I am very thankful to Pedram, who introduced you to me and explained about your precious activities. I am an Iranian woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017, but then it became metastasis and spread to different parts of my body throughout the lymph nodes in 2021. For about 10 months, it went from bad to worse. And although I'd been told that I am not curable anymore, then I started to research and I could stop and decrease the cancer in my body through natural ways. I am suffering a lot from side effects of the chemo medications. I would be grateful if I had any chance to hear from you regarding these matters?
Write to health@spaceshipinstitute.org. You'll be passed on to the doctors responsible, and they will decide in how and if there is possibility for them to support your health. Now, and this medical-based doctors using the Keshe Foundation technology will increase rapidly in the coming months. Then we can use. The problem with chemotherapy is not the chemotherapy itself; it's the side effects of the chemotherapy, which allows the cancer to spread. And you see the spread up in different ways. If the chemotherapy understanding of its what we call it reduction or control of the cancer cell is interconnected with the knowledge of the plasma technology, there could be a lot of advantages. There could be a lot of things can be done. I'm a great believer in chemotherapy, but understanding its side effects and its problem to be brought under control of the what do you call it? Cancer. It has a lot of problems. Okay, it's like the new vaccines which we see, and they say it has so many side effects for children. We have to find out where the side effects are and how we can eliminate it. Can we transfer it into energy that is not there in the matter state? And what does it do? And how we can help. A lot of medicines do not do what they're supposed to. They're just there to make money. A lot of things have a benefit, but because we don't know how to control the other parts of it, gives us this massive problem. If chemotherapy used the right way, as an energy level, we can touch most of the cancers, without a doubt. But now today, the Keshe Foundation doctors are testing a new thing. We are testing a new, we'll see in the next few weeks they report to us. They're working on it, they're testing on it, and we have introduced a new dimension into cancer process to Keshe Foundation. It's getting tested by the doctors. If we think we will see a huge development to be reported by doctors. And if we see that, then we immediately implement it, we announce it and bring it into public. We understand it. It's now, I think, the second week they are using it, or yes, a second week more or less. And we need to wait for the data in another, most probably 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And see the new technology developed and used by the doctors gives us the result. And then we understand more and how we can even eradicate the side effects of the chemotherapy. This is now going on today with doctors at the, what do you call it, Wellness Centers and the Keshe Foundation. But we see, we understand it, we see it, and we have incorporated it in our systems, and the doctors are using it, and we'll see what comes up. But get in touch to health at spaceshipinstitute.org, and then the doctors will explain to you, and we'll see what they decide. Any other question?
Very good. Question from Doug. He says, hello, Mr. Keshe, if you wish, can you give us an update on Naomi's current position? We all love her so much.
Naomi's condition, I met her 2 years ago in June. And there's a lot of, she is stagnated in a condition where when I met her, I realized what is not accomplished completely by the process, and I explained that to Giovanni, what needs to be done. That we have brought Naomi out of the what we call field coma, but not of a physical coma, and it needs to be done. Full instructions given to Giovanni what needs to be done, and then due to process of the accident, there is some physical damage to her leg ligaments or in that position. Otherwise, she is good. She's living a normal life as possible. And I know one of our knowledge seekers works very hard. She's trying to see how she can do. But essentially, what we, with us being so busy with everything else with it, on my visit to Giovanni when I was in Italy a couple of years ago, but also there we said, you haven't completed the job. I thought this should have been done. And physical coma is different than neurosystem coma. And that has not been done. The process, and Giovanni has to complete it. And she'll live a total normal life. This is what we call the soul of man and soul of physicality, and the physicality. When you don't complete the process, you do not open one of the gates. So it's there. But she lives a normal life as anyone. She's active. She lives home, and very little communication. But she lives a normal life. But the physical coma has not been taken out. And there's a way to do it, and they have the access to it. And, yeah,
We have a question from Farzam in the chat here, who says, last week, Mr. Keshe said that the soul plans for physicality in any activity. So what is the reason for abnormal human behavior?
Maybe that abnormal human behavior is a soul behavior. To us, it's abnormal. Abnormality is from the point of view of the observer. Otherwise, to the one who does it is normal. It's very interesting. When you speak to the hyperactive child, they never see themselves as hyperactive. When you speak to someone who's got Alzheimer's, they say, no, I remember everything. I said, do you remember this? No. Do you remember that? But I don't have Alzheimer's. It's a point of view. Any other question?
Okay, question in the Q&A from Ludasan, who says, good morning, Mr. Keshe. If our body is all GANs and the food we ingest becomes GANs immediately, is there any importance to take sweets, for example, 1 hour before the main course or 1 hour after? Thanks a lot.
Depends on what. Some people do. In some countries, sweet comes first. They have the fruit first, and then they have the meal. In some countries, we have the fruit and the dessert after, or what we call it, fruits after. In the Iranian traditional family, you never eat watermelon after a food. You always eat watermelon before the food. Because the belief is that we eat usually as our main diet rice, and then you put so much water on the rice after you had the food, now it expands in the stomach. Now grains of the rice supposedly in the stomach being digested, but they expand. So you You eat melon after the food, but you don't eat melon before the food. And when you go for a Chinese food, the sweets is part of the main course. It's there. You want to help yourself, and you start with the sweet something. So it's how we look at it. You can eat sweets before or after. It's a sugar content which you absorb. Would you give it the energy or not? It's individually thought and decided, and actually being a culture in a way. To the Western world, yes, we have what we call dessert or sweet. Because why do we have, what's the reason that we introduce dessert? If you look at it, dessert is usually something sweet-based or whatever, or fruit, is because the food we eat, meat or whatever, takes longer time to digest. It takes a lot of energy. And during that time of shortness of energy to digest the food we ate, we are short. And so you go to sleep, you're tired. So we take that dessert, the sugar, to cover that immediate shortfall in the energy for digestion of what we ate. That's the reason dessert was created. Not to fall asleep after food. You still have enough energy that the instant supplement of the sugar content of the dessert will cover you enough till the time is needed for the energy of the main course, pasta, whatever you ate, which is a longer time to digest. There's a reason not everywhere around the world, except in Western Europe, or most of the European countries, we have dessert. In the West, we in the other part of the world, you have a fruit after the meal to do the same job. But we do it so naturally, it's become part of our work that we don't notice it. Any other question?
Okay, another question from Ludasan. Can you explain how in the body is a vacuum and the body is not flat? I guess he means flat from the vacuum condition or something.
This is a different vacuum. It's a plasmatic magnetic field vacuum, not extracted of content vacuum as we do in a human, as we do it from any object. Vacuum condition means magnetic field, gravitational field strength. Vacuum. It means it has a different inertia position, which does not allow matter state to manifest itself, but in the plasma does. When you work in laboratories with a high vacuum system, when we vacuum like space reactors, we don't see everything going out. We leave the vacuum machine running for an hour, 2 hours sometimes, to capture the last little atom it might be freed somewhere we haven't captured. Because that's a matter state capture. And on our meters, we see there's still matters going through the system, even though you're in -12, -13 operation. That vacuum is mean extracting matter state out of a content, but the ball is still in a field content. It still has fields. The vacuum to a demand is not a matter state, it's a vacuum but created by the plasma of the gases of the matters in the body. It's a terminology used in respect to the field strength conversion to the outside. If it was vacuum, the body will flatten. If you put a pipe in your body and try to suck everything out, you go flat. It's like we say a space value vacuum is -12, 13 outside the Earth gravitation, but it's full of cosmic dust and everything else. A meteor is traveling it. We talk about vacuum condition that matter can still exist. Fields can still exist, but matter can be part of its content. is mixing up of the terminology of two cycles of the knowledge matter state and field strength state.
So Mr. Kesh, for example, in the ocean, would that also be essentially a vacuum condition for the field condition and so on, or is it only inside of a living body that's?
No, oceans are in a vacuum condition of their own. A field strength that allows them to exist in that condition.
Even the stone. A rock. I was going to say yes, exactly.
Yeah,
even
this is. Now we understand it's what do you call it? Field strength dependent. So it can be, if you take a stone into space, another position, it will become like a jelly. It'll start moving. It has life. But on the inertial gravitational field of this planet is solid. It's like, sugar candy. It's solid. You can't even chew it. You put it in the environment of the hot water, it just melts to nothing. You can't even see it. And if you look at the bottom of it, it's a beautiful thing. Like sometimes it just carries you out when you see. If you get the crystal sugar, we call it, and then put it in the hot water or tea, and you see it melting, disappearing of the wood, which is very essential. If you go to the Iranian restaurants, they always give you tea with this, what do you call it, candy stick on it, and they put it in the tea, and then it disappears from a stick. If you sip the top of the tea without shaking it, it has no sweetness. But at the bottom, you see waves of different densities of fields. This is how it'll be in a space. You're solid in one position, but now you become a plasma field. So it's just, you see the wave of the sugar at the bottom. This is all it is. It's the same water, the same crystal, but if you let it go cool, it doesn't become crystallized. It still sits there in that wave. This is how we are and will be in the space.
So is that vacuum condition that you speak of, is it a relative thing? Like, for example,
Sure.
of the candy melting in the hot water, it went into the vacuum of it went into the vacuum of the hot water and it expanded and dissolved its structure. But it was okay in the air. So would the air be in a vacuum condition in that case or not?
Yeah, but you see, if you put that same thing in the cold water, it might not happen. It stays there for longer. Mm-hmm. Once we create a partition, doesn't matter what it is, we create a new environment. And the wall of that containment and the content of that containment dictate the new environment and condition of field. You see this with caustics when you make ganses. You don't use hot water, you just put the ganses, you create a different field strength, and you see how fat sits on the top, how ganses move inside. And if you understand this, that you can create different field strengths, now you understand new construction technologies which come forth in the coming time using plasma. We see it. I'd say this in next maybe 5 or 10 years, now that we are moving into a new dimension of technology development. If you get a wall of, let's say you want a wall of 10 centimeters, you create a field of a strength of copper on one side and create the field strength of iron on the other side. And introduce a specific inertial field in between the two, you create a new material dimension and a new manifestation of the field. That from the one side, it looks that the room is made of iron plates. On the other side, looks as it's made by the copper plates. But in fact, they're both in plasma condition. This is how the future constructions will be done. By changing plasma condition, you create new inertias, and then you create the size fit, height fit. This technology is known to us. It's actually, if you go in the patents, is in there. So we are about to introduce it into commercial application in the next few years. And what you decide in between two fields dictates that there's going to be isolation, no sounds, no heat, no radiation, no visual manifestation. Now, if you understand how to, you can make a sphere of it, you can make a ball of it, you can make a straight wall of it. As I said, we entered a new era of the technology development and research. And new Keshe Foundation institutes will set up to research this. Any other question?
The hand up here with Farzam. Go ahead, Farzam.
سلام چطور؟
سلام از خواهید
حالتون چطور؟ ممنونم. شما خوب هستین؟ ممنونم از شما خوبین؟ سلامت باشین. من فقط خواستم خدمتتون عرض کنم که اون خانم که الان راجع به کنسر صحبت کردن دیروز پیغام گذاشتن تو کلاس و قرار بودش که تو کلاس بهشون گفتیم به من یعنی یه پیغام روی چی بدن، ندادن روی تلگرام و حتی گفتم پدرام هم با من در تماس میتونه به من چی بده، نه پدرام نه ایشون هیچ تماس نداشت. گفتم که اگر که الان میشنون تماس داشته باشن، برای راهنماییشون قرار شد که اینجوری بشن. ممنونم. خواهش میکنم. آروم باشید. تمام. Thank you, Rick.
Let me translate. This is the answer to the lady who says she's Iranian with a breast cancer. Dr. Parapur is the medical spokesman of the Keshe Foundation. And he says that the lady was in touch with them or made an inquiry with them yesterday in a Persian teaching, and she's been asked to get in touch with that. We see how we can support her, but they haven't got in touch with. So if you're listening, please go back to the Iranian team with Dr. Parapur, and then they know what to do and next step. Any other question?
ممنونم.
خیلی متشکرم آقای دکتر بهرام.
قربون شما. سلامت.
Okay, we have a question from Chris. Tough question. He says, thanks for what you're doing, Mr. Keshe. How does the change will come? The establishment doesn't want this change. With sweet words?
Leave that to us. We've been well seasoned with these things. Leave it to us. We will find a way. You see, the establishment, if you look at it, we never realized that the establishment was established within the Keshe Foundation to make sure nothing happens in Keshe Foundation. And we got rid of that establishment. And now with the changes and developments in the Keshe Foundation comes that we got one of the well-rooted establishment out of the Keshe Foundation. Now we are growing. Before the establishment had the biggest spice sitting right in the center of the Keshe Foundation. Every development was scaffolded directly from inside. Now it's gone. And we've seen the progress and development. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the case and the situation, and you've seen how Keshe Foundation has grown leaps and heights in the past 3 years, especially. You cannot grow when people inside work against because of the knowledge and the information they have in there. We got some 2 or 3 people in the Keshe Foundation, which a lot of you know. And with that, we have changed the direction of Keshe Foundation. You don't see them around, they're long gone. And they use the Keshe Foundation and work for other organizations to damage the Keshe Foundation for their own benefit. And so long gone. Long gone. And we are moving on. Establishments work against themselves, and sometimes things work different way than what they planned. Any other question?
Okay, from Cristiano, a question from the Brazilian community, someone there says, if you learn your lesson, then do you still have to balance the fields in physicality, or do you transcend the physical dimension? We're not hearing you, Mr. Keshe. I think your microphone's off there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I said sometimes what you think you learn is opposite to what you were supposed to learn with the teaching of your soul. So the soul puts you back on the test again to get it right. It's what we presume we learn from, and what we assume we learn from, but it was in reality what it was supposed to be learned from, or learned by it. And this is one of the things, we make the same mistake again and again till we learn from it. If any of you, in the session of tomorrow with addiction, have a habit of going into the same kind of position and relationship again and again, we'll be interested to hear from you after the session. It's a very intensive session tomorrow, and it'll be very interesting what habits we have. Why do we go from the same failure in relationship to another one that fails the same for the same reason? Are we addicted to it, or we challenge ourselves to it? And this is a very, very interesting point and condition. And we will handle this in the addiction session tomorrow. Any other question?
We've got a couple more in the Q&A here, and one in YouTube. From YouTube, from DBZ, I have one question. What are the meridians of our body, and how do they function in relation to the strength of the fields of the 3 layers of the skin in the plasma application?
Our skin dictates the meridians, because that contains them. The field flow goes. If you break your leg and twist it slightly, or gets broken and gets twisted, and it changes the field flow in your body because of the way you walk, and this can go into the RNA of your body and the DNA. Due to change of the fields in the body and the whole structure of the meridians and the physicality, you'll find maybe your 3rd generation, 2nd generation, what you had the physical, this, what you call it, change, will become part of the structure of the life. Because the skin and the bone have registered that as normality. And you'll find out if you have a child at the age of 20, 18, 20, and then, which happens quite a lot, and then you decide at the age of 45, 50 to have a child with the same partner, you will see, and let's say you had an accident, deformity, or something happened to you at the age of 15, 16, you didn't leave it to your first child at the age of 18. But with a higher rate of chances, your child born after 45, 50 you created will carry possibility of that gene change in it. And she might not show it, but they might show it in the next generation. Even psychological conditions. We understand this, and this comes because of the magnetic field within the body and what we call meridians and the field flows of the flow of the body of the man will transfer that physical deformation into DNA and RNA. So it has a direct effect. And our skin, how it's twisted, how it's turned, how it's got scarred, can manifest itself in that physical condition later on. It needs 20 to 25 years to be ingrained or in a way remembered by the body or by the brain to replace the same position, so it becomes a natural process. We see this now, we understand technology quite a lot. And some people like to call it genetic defects, but now we find the effect of genetics, the reasons for it, and we understand it more. Any other question? I would like to finish in the next few minutes.
Okay. Send a message here. Okay, now a couple more quick questions then. We have Elizabeth in the Q&A. Thank you for all the love and knowledge you give us. Foreign language syndrome is suffered by some people who, after an accident that hit their head, their brain, when it suddenly recovers, speaks in different languages. This can help us understand that total knowledge is in our interior, in the soul of man.
This we saw in a couple of cases when they went through the system. They didn't need an accident. When we put people in the system, I think if we mentioned it before, people could not speak or communicate in English. They were fluent after they went through the system. And they said, oh, I didn't know. I said, you speak. It's not a needed trauma. It's access to a knowledge we already have of all languages. We will try this very soon in a series of trials of seeing how far we can transfer knowledge, language from one to another. And it is not a transfer, it's actually it's a difference between speaking a language and speaking a language. Many people who learn English by the book and by English classes, or maybe lived in English-speaking country for a year or two, they speak English, but they don't actually speak English, which means they don't understand the culture, they don't understand the emotion, they don't understand the essence of the words. I'll explain to you something and then you understand. We had a case where in English language, it's very common to use the word of bastard. It means a child from an unknown father. And the lady was told, your child, language word was a bastard, which was just a commentary speaking. I says, no, he's not a bastard. I know the father. And everybody looked. You don't know what it means in English. It means he doesn't behave in the norm. He abuses the condition. And this is the difference with speaking language through the soul. You will understand the emotion of the language. You understand the terminology of the language. You just don't speak it. And this comes by the interaction of the souls, which you have now access to. You don't necessarily means you have the access to the knowledge of that language, Chinese, English, whatever, in your brain. Through the connection of the souls, you have access to somebody who speaks the English with the full meaning of the English. That you, when you say joke, you see in English to some people who don't speak English, they laugh. But you see, the laugh is just, they don't want to show that they didn't understand. Because if there are English people speaking it, they know this joke had a hidden meaning, a second meaning to it, and they were talking that. And they laugh because of that. But the one who hasn't just smiles because just say, oh, I understood. This will not happen in the dimension of what you call speaking language through the soul. In a way, you have a server who has an emotional understanding. Could it be in your brain you can access to it? You bring it and you translate it to, and this understanding will come very much to you. You will understand. So I don't know how I understood the emotion of it, how I could translate it. Then we learn the way you tap to the soul to see your father who died years ago, and you tap to the soul of somebody else you love, and they feel your love. Through the same process now, we understand the soul of the language, that we tap to somebody who's Chinese. So when even we speak the Chinese, we hear the Chinese, we understand it, we understand the emotion of it, the essence behind it, the culture of it. And then the speaking language will change. It'll be the same when we travel depth to universe. We don't understand the language, but we get the essence of the emotion from them, and they get the emotion from our soul, and we understand each other. There is no language school at all anywhere. I haven't seen any. I don't think any of you will find English-speaking language on planet Zeus. These are the things which we learn, and it becomes part of us. We are part of the universal community with access to whole knowledge of the universe. Depends where we want to tap into it and how we want to tap into it. It'll be very interesting. I explained this to a bunch of space scientists, and sooner or later man will face this, now that we have opened the space. In the coming time, when we take you out of the colonies, you go to the other side of the dome, and you live a life in the strength field of the time and place in the space. What was not manifest to you inside the dome could be the creatures of that planet. That to us, through the eye of the man in the dome, was invisible. The interesting thing will be how you will communicate, how you will live amongst them. Now you look amongst them. Look alike of them, understanding the culture, understanding the possibilities of life becomes part of your life. You chose to cross the line. And as a man, we have to be prepared for that. We have looked for centuries and thousands of years into the sky to see the sun. We see nothing between us and the rays of the sun except clouds. Now we have scientists who have taken pictures above us from creatures which live above us, and we see them moving. So what is the answer? We've been blind to their existence even though we see through them. And this is the norm in the coming time. Now that we open the plasma technology, not by rockets which has failed us, not by the spaceship UFOs which take us to another capsule, but by transformation, transition, transmutation of the energy of the body of the man. These are the facts which we have to face in next year or two. It's not in 10 years down the line, it's not in our grandchildren. We as a human race, we developed it, we are facing it. We have to handle it. We have to know what we're going to face with. I'm sure when we land on the moon and we go through the transmutation beyond the walls through the energy of our body, we will see creatures which live on this planet, which are not visible to us today. The planet has a gravitational magnetic field. It has a construction. It has an inertia that by law of existence has creatures of its own which live within its environment of zero atmosphere, as you call it. We have to open our eyes to the reality of what is to come. Not ignore it to our peril and get damaged by it when we go and we expect. What are we going to see? How come you get on a plane in London and you land in Beijing and you expect to see Chinese? Do you see that many Chinese in London? Everywhere around you? My son said something very funny when we used to live in China. Papa, all the foods here are Chinese. I said, yes, of course, my dear. We live in China. Now, we don't go to see another dimension of Chinese or Black or Indians. We are going in the environment of the field difference. What was not there to us visible from here to the other side is impossibility that there is no life on any planetary system in the universe, even on the stars. If we accept this, if we understand this, we are ready to become the true travelers of the space. Otherwise, now it becomes them and us. Because now when you travel in the dimension of the soul, it's us and us and us and not them. With the knowledge that we come from another source, but we are part of them. You don't need to go sign language. Souls have no sign language. Excuse me, nothing exists. These are the realities we have to face. And it's not in the books, it's on the table, it's coming up. It's the next show. Moss failed going 200 meters up. Moss cannot even imagine such a thing exists because otherwise he does not exist in the dream of his own capsule. But as knowledge seekers, you see, you come to us, you go to, you hear Dr. Barapur just a few minutes ago, you come to the doctors of the Keshe Foundation to get rid of your Alzheimer's. How do we do that? How do the technology allows you to expand your soul and deal with what you forgot? Now you remember and you see new things. You have to remember in the soul that when you come back, you attach it to the soul of it again. You go to the grandchildren says, I went to the moon and there were creatures like this and that. Do they laugh at you? No. It's like you're going into back to London and say, oh, Chinese have this, and say, it doesn't exist. Chinese. Who's seen that? What? Oh, what are you talking about, chopsticks? It's only chopsticks. It's only steak, fish, and chips, and forks and knives. This is a new extension to our knowledge, and we have to be open to it because it's us who fails us, nobody else. It's us who fails us in the reality of existence, in the dimension of existence. Jump up, go up, pay Mr. Moss to take you to the space station and look at the window and see how many floating things you see. Why don't they create a cloud that we can't see inside? The dimension of the field transfer creates a transparency that the light goes through. Our lack of vision, our lack of knowledge has made us ignorant to our own existence. And we can't do this anymore when we go into space. And it's not the next generation. As they say, the last bell has rung and man is on the way up. Shall we call it a day? And we come back next week And we surely see you tomorrow. Those of you who participate in the, what we call the addiction session. But remember, you don't come for alcohol addiction and other addictions. That could be solved. But we are more interested in how we stop the addiction of killing and addiction of being attached to this planet. And then we'll see the progress of the man in the coming time.
Do you think you could give a quick answer to our last question here, which is from someone called Rick?
Was that Rick Crammond?
No, it's not me. It's in the Q&A. It's another Rick, and it says, I am new here. I believe there are devices to help power a home. Can I get an explanation for what is currently possible, and is it cost efficient? Thank you. Can you give a quick answer, maybe?
There are systems which are in the Keshe Foundation, and depends on what you want. It's a combination of gas and electric, which is coming in the second quarter of this year, and many other new developments. Yes, you can now buy a system of what we call home power unit, which is a hybrid system between the what we call electricity and plasma power production, and other systems which, as you go to the sales pages of Keshe Foundation, you can find and choose, and the hybrid system which produce gas and electric, and that way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. I know you need to go here, so I'll put the store link in for Rick here there, and he can have a look at some of the different systems that are available.
Yep. See you tomorrow, and those of you register for the addiction trial, and those of you who want to join us on part of the 200, what we call the split units, join us, and we'll see the next step in the development of the technology in coming time. And we'll see where we can go. Thank you very much, Rick. And thanks. See you tomorrow and then next Thursday.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, for another wonderful workshop here. This has been the 483rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April.
About 10 years, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been, well, 9 years of workshops with the Knowledge Seekers Workshop, but you've got to take into account you did workshops every month for a year before that as well, with the private or the public teaching workshop series, which became the Knowledge Seekers Workshop. So it's actually 10 years, yes.
Yes, let's see if we can make it into 500.
Yeah, I was hoping for 500 too. Just keep pushing. Just keep pushing. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr.
See you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay, bye for now. Just thinking of that the other day.
We are about there. Just about there.
Yes, indeed.
3 more months and years, 500 session.
Mm-hmm.
The problem comes when you start counting 4,830.
Yeah, and we got to take into account there's already like over 2,000 videos in the YouTube channel as well.
Okay,
Most of which you are a star in, Mr. Keshe. Thank you for being our star for so many years.
We're just students learning. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Okay, take care.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Yes, indeed. So just as a reminder, that's the addictions workshop, and starts at, well, 11:30 a.m. That's tomorrow, Friday, April 28th. And you should have received an email about the how to proceed at this point. If you didn't, then you better get a hold of the the Keshe Foundation, probably through the info@keshe.foundation line. Okay, what else do we have here? I think that's it. The next public teaching workshop will be the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace coming up, which by then we will be into May already. It'll be May 2nd, Tuesday, May 2nd. And that starts at the 4 p.m. Central European time, Central European summertime, that is. Okay, and we'll go out with the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version, as we like to do in this show. And we'll see you all in the next public teaching workshop, or somewhere before that, perhaps. Okay, bye for now.